Welcome back for another RV and adventure with Rambling Reflections. This week we're exploring the Outer Banks region of North Carolina. We stayed at Hatteras Sands Campground. It's the only campground located in the heart of Hatteras Village. They refer to themselves as a resort, but I'd hesitate calling it a true resort. There's not a lot of resort amenities. They have over 60 paved RV sites with water, sewer, electricity, cable, and Wi-Fi. They also have tent sites according to their website. And they have tiny home-style cabins for rent and an Olympic-sized pool. They do have a canal system that runs through the park, and you can launch your kayak directly in the park for fishing and crabbing opportunities. They have a bathhouse and laundry facility with 2 washers and 2 dryers and free Wi-Fi.
Our first day of adventure took us to the beach, of course. We had to check out this wild and natural phenomenon, and it didn't disappoint. It's so beautiful here on the south end of the island. It's not all developed like in other places, and as we've mentioned in other videos, this is how we prefer the beach. I guess the only disappointment was how rough the water was. There was a storm brewing offshore, and you could see it in the waves, but we've heard that's always a little more rough here.
From there, we headed over to the iconic Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. This is the tallest brick lighthouse in the country. It was built in 1802 to mark the dangerous shoals that extend from the Cape for 10 nautical miles. We set out to go climb it and get some beautiful panoramic views of the surrounding area, but of course when we got there the lighthouse was closed for remodeling.
I can't believe they moved this thing 2,900 feet. That was an incredible feat of engineering. I suggest everyone checking that out.
Yeah, they moved the lighthouse and the historic building southwest to a safer location from the eroding shoreline. That move took 23 days and was a response to a research study in 1988 that identified sea level rise as a threat to the lighthouse.
When it was built, it was located 1,500 feet from the ocean. By the end of the 20th century, it was only 120 feet away.
You can see in this picture the post marking the original location, and you can see the lighthouse now in its new location in the distance.
Since we couldn't climb the lighthouse, we decided to go find another one that we could. On the way to Bodie Island Lighthouse, we saw all these people on the sound side of the island, and they were kiteboarding and waterfoiling. So we stopped there for a few minutes to watch them.
That looks like a great place to learn to kiteboard. The water was super shallow. People were standing knee deep way out there.
Then we left and got to the Oregon Inlet area, and we spotted one of the old historic life-saving stations. These were the precursor to the U.S. Coast Guard, so we parked at the pier and took a little hike to see what we could find. This was a really cool piece of history. It was built in 1897 by the United States Life-Saving Service. It was one of the 7 life-saving stations established on the Outer Banks of North Carolina in 1874 to serve the ships that were lost on the treacherous waters off the North Carolina coast.
Then before we left this area, we explored the Bonner Bridge Pier. The Cape Hatteras National Seashore, in collaboration with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the North Carolina Department of Transportation, opened the 1,046-foot section of the old bridge as a pier in October 2021.
Man, what a busy day. We finally made it to the Bodie Island Light Station. We're actually looking at the 3rd lighthouse that was built for this location. Construction on the first one started back in 1847, and it started to lean 2 years after completion. Many things were tried to rectify the problem, but ultimately failed, and the station had to be abandoned in 1859. A second lighthouse was quickly built at a nearby site in 1859, but it also had an unforeseen danger, the Civil War. Retreating Confederate troops blew it up in 1861 for fear the Union soldiers would use it. This lighthouse wasn't built until 1871 and wasn't electrified till 1932, and it's still in operation today, keeping watch over the graveyard of the Atlantic.
Wouldn't you know it, we got to the lighthouse and you had to purchase tickets to climb the lighthouse online only, and they were sold out for the day anyway. So we walked around the museum and then took a stroll on the marsh walk overlooking the sound. It was still a pretty amazing experience.
When we got done with that, we decided we'd had enough sightseeing for one day and decided to head back to the camper after a quick bite to eat.
The next morning, we decided to head up to Corolla Island to see the wild horses on the beach. Steve had booked us a 2-hour tour with one of those companies, but wouldn't you know it, it rained really hard the night before.
It flooded.
Yeah, we did check text that morning and we hadn't gotten anything. The tour had not been canceled. We didn't get any kind of notifications, but it was a 2.5-hour drive, so we left really early in the morning. As soon as we pulled into the parking lot, we got a text message that the tour had been canceled. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
We were not having the best of luck with sightseeing. But the tour operators were really gracious. They offered to take us out on another day. They explained why they didn't think it was worth our money to go out. But unfortunately, we couldn't work it into our schedule to go a different day, so we just had to decline. They did give us a complete refund, and they actually told us some interesting sites to check out while we were in the area. So we set out to explore Corolla, North Carolina.
So we headed into the historic portion of town, Ocracoke Heritage Park, and we had a look around. We came upon a one-room schoolhouse that's been added onto and is now a two-room schoolhouse that is still in operation. There was another old lighthouse, the Ocracoke Beach Lighthouse, and a 21,000 square foot mansion, the Whalehead Club. There's a beautiful wooden bridge that's a great spot for picture taking as well.
We left Corolla to start the 2.5-hour journey back to the camper. Along the way, we saw a Duck Donut shop in the village of Duck and realized we had found the original Duck Donuts. So of course we had to drop in and get a donut for Steve.
So after I had scarfed down my donuts, Rose realized we still had enough time to stop by the Wright Brothers Memorial. So we headed to Kitty Hawk. What a cool tribute to the creation of flight. A fantastic memorial. They even had a recreation of the original flyer.
After we got our steps in here, we went on back to the house to eat dinner and rested up for our next day's journey that took us to Ocracoke Island.
First thing we did was to go see the pony pens. These house the wild horses on Ocracoke. We may not have been able to see them on the beach in Corolla, but we did get to see them in Ocracoke. Then we headed out to try and find something to eat. A friend of mine, Mike Pemberton, suggested we eat at Howard's on Hatteras. We didn't get an opportunity to eat there, but we did find Howard's on Ocracoke, so we stopped in there and gave it a try. We had the bluefish and scallops and shrimp. Boy, are we glad we did. Thanks, Mike, for the suggestion.
After lunch, we went in search of the British cemetery. On May 11, 1942, during World War II, a British ship, the HMT Bedfordshire, was out on patrol for German submarines off the coast of North Carolina when it was torpedoed and sunk by a German U-boat. The vessel sank almost immediately, killing all 37 Royal Navy sailors. In the following days, the bodies of 4 sailors washed ashore on Ocracoke, and the residents buried them in a local cemetery. Interestingly, every year the National Park Service, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the British Royal Navy have a service to honor the men that lost their lives in that attack.
The sailors were buried next to the Howard and Wahop family cemetery. We took a look around there while we were there to look at the dates on those headstones too. They were something else. Dates all the way back to 1721. That was Anne Howard. And as impressive as how old that date was, it was more impressive to me that she lived, are you ready for this? She lived to be 117 years old. Can you imagine the life she must have lived? I mean, there were no conveniences back then, not to mention roads. That was a very remote life back then. What a hard life. Man, she must have come from some very good genes. I don't think I'll ever forget your name, Ann Howard. Much respect. We left the cemetery and went to explore the little village again and look out over the ocean. Ocracoke was the most undeveloped of the Outer Banks islands we experienced, and my favorite by far. I hope you enjoyed this week's video and will join us for more adventures in the future. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and tell us so in the comments. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do and become a part of the Ramblin' Reflections family of campers and explorers. Till next time, guys, stay safe out there and we'll see you next week.